Fear has you cornered, doesn't it? That familiar tightness in your chest when opportunity knocks, the voice that whispers, "You can't," louder than any voice that says you can. You watch others take risks while you remain frozen, trapped behind invisible walls built from what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. You scroll through social media, seeing people living boldly while you remain in the shadows of your own potential. But here's what they don't teach you in self-help books. What if fear isn't your enemy? What if it's been waiting to become your greatest teacher? For 25 centuries, Buddhist masters have understood something profound about fear that modern psychology is only beginning to grasp. Fear isn't a problem to solve or an emotion to eliminate. It's a sacred gateway to transformation, a fierce teacher dressed as an enemy, a protective force that can become your most powerful ally in creating the life your soul truly desires. Today we'll uncover 6 profound Buddhist lessons that transform fear from a prison into a pathway. These ancient wisdoms have guided countless souls from paralysis to power, from hiding to wholehearted living, from the safety of limitation to the adventure of unlimited possibility. The first lesson reveals what the Buddha called bhaya, the recognition that all fear ultimately stems from attachment, from your desperate clinging to things, people, and identities you believe define your worth. You're not actually afraid of change itself, you're terrified of losing what you've convinced yourself you need to survive. Your identity, your comfort zone, your familiar story of who you are, these become gilded cages that feel like safety but function as prisons. Think about your deepest fears right now. Fear of rejection, that's attachment to approval. Fear of failure, attachment to success and the image it provides. Fear of being alone, attachment to others' presence as proof of your lovability. Each fear reveals where you've given your power away to external circumstances, where you've made your peace conditional on things beyond your ultimate control. Imagine a butterfly still clinging to its cocoon, terrified to emerge because the darkness feels safe, familiar, controllable. The caterpillar has built this protective shell, invested everything in its construction, identified completely with its contained existence. Yet staying means spiritual death, slow suffocation of the soul's deepest calling. The caterpillar must literally dissolve every cell, every certainty, every familiar structure must melt into primordial soup to become something magnificent. Your fears often signal that you're approaching your own metamorphosis moment, standing at the threshold between who you've been and who you're becoming. The ego senses this dissolution approaching and screams warnings. Don't change, don't risk, stay safe in what you know. But your soul whispers different guidance. Emerge, expand, become. I remember a successful lawyer who came to our monastery retreat, paralyzed by the fear of leaving her prestigious firm to pursue art. "I've spent 15 years building this identity," she confessed. "If I'm not a lawyer, who am I?" Her fear wasn't really about money or judgment. It was about the ego's terror of identity death, the attachment to a self-concept that had become her prison. When fear grips you with its familiar intensity, pause and ask with gentle curiosity, what am I really afraid of losing? What attachment is fear protecting? Usually it's not your physical safety. It's the illusion of control, the comfort of predictability, the ego's desperate need to remain unchanged, unchallenged, uncalled to greatness. The practice here requires both courage and compassion, releasing into the unknown by whispering to your fear like a mother, comforting a frightened child. "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I choose growth over safety. I choose expansion over attachment. I trust the intelligence that guides my transformation." But why does this release feel so impossible when you're drowning in terror, when every cell seems to scream warnings? The second teaching illuminates fear's deepest secret, the mechanism that gives it such power over your life. Fear exists only in imagination, never in the present moment. Your mind is a time machine, constantly projecting past pain onto future possibilities, creating elaborate horror movies that may never screen in reality. Fear cannot survive in the immediacy of now. It needs the stories of yesterday and tomorrow to maintain its grip on your nervous system. Consider how your mind operates when fear takes control. You're rarely afraid of what's happening right now. You're terrified of what might happen, what could go wrong, what painful experiences from your past might repeat themselves. Fear is imagination run wild, creativity turned toward destruction rather than construction. A student once came to me paralyzed by social anxiety, unable to attend gatherings because her mind painted vivid scenes of humiliation and rejection. "Teacher," she confessed, "I can see everyone judging me, laughing at my mistakes, remembering my failures forever. I can hear their conversations about how awkward I am. I can feel their eyes following me, their whispers behind my back." The detail in her fearful projections was extraordinary, like a filmmaker crafting scenes for a psychological thriller. Her imagination was brilliant, creative, fully engaged, just pointed in the wrong direction. I asked her a simple question that changed everything. "Right now, in this exact moment, who is judging you? Who is laughing? Whose eyes are following you?" She looked around our empty meditation hall, the late afternoon sunlight streaming through tall windows, the only sounds being distant birdsong and the gentle whisper of wind through trees. Then her eyes widened with profound recognition. There's no one here but us, and you're not judging me, you're listening with kindness." The revelation struck like lightning, illuminating a night landscape. Her suffering existed entirely in mental projections, not in present reality. Fear thrives in the realm of imagination, past regrets and future anxieties, but withers in the light of immediate sensory experience. This is why meditation masters throughout history have emphasized present moment awareness, not as spiritual bypassing, but as practical liberation from self-created suffering. In this moment, right now, as you read these words, notice what's actually happening. Feel the surface beneath you, hear the sounds around you, sense the rhythm of your breathing. In this precise moment, fear cannot maintain its grip because there's nothing to project onto, just the simple, direct experience of being alive. The practice here is revolutionary in its simplicity. When fear arises with its familiar stories and projections, ground yourself instantly in this moment's actual reality. Feel your feet on solid earth. Notice 5 things you can see clearly, 4 sounds you can hear distinctly, 3 textures you can touch immediately. Fear cannot maintain its grip when you're fully anchored in the present, because in this moment right now, you are fundamentally safe. Yet sometimes fear feels too overwhelming, too primal to simply ground away. Sometimes terror seems to live in your very bones. The third wisdom teaches us about virya, the spiritual courage that comes not from the absence of fear, but from acting despite fear, transforming terror into fuel for transformation. The bravest warriors aren't those who never feel afraid, they're those who feel the terror completely and move forward anyway, allowing fear to become energy rather than obstacle. This understanding completely revolutionizes your relationship with courage. You've been waiting to feel brave before taking action, but Buddhism teaches the opposite sequence. Action creates courage, not the reverse. Courage isn't a feeling you must generate, it's a choice you make in the presence of fear. I recall watching a young monk approach his first teaching assignment, hands visibly trembling as he prepared to address a room full of experienced practitioners. His teacher advised him not to hide his nervousness, but to include it in his teaching. Instead of pretending confidence, he began with radical honesty. "I'm terrified right now, and that tells me this moment matters deeply to my growth. My fear shows me how much I care about serving you well." His vulnerability became his strength, his fear transformed into authentic connection with every person in that room. By including his fear rather than fighting it, he demonstrated something profound. You don't overcome fear, you dance with it, transform it, use its energy for expansion rather than contraction. You've been taught that fear means stop, but Buddhism teaches that fear often means go. Go toward what matters most. Go toward your growth edge. Go toward becoming who you're meant to be. The very things that scare you most are often pointing toward your deepest purpose, your soul's calling, the contribution only you can make to this world. A successful entrepreneur once told me how every major breakthrough in her business came from moving toward what terrified her most, hiring that first employee, making that bold investment, entering that new market. Fear became my compass, she said. It always pointed toward my next level of growth. The practice involves completely reframing your relationship with fear. Instead of seeing it as a stop sign, treat it as a GPS pointing toward your expansion. When you feel that familiar tightness in your chest, that voice saying you can't, lean in slightly rather than pulling back. Say to yourself with gentle determination, "This fear tells me I'm about to expand. I can be scared and courageous at the same time. I choose action despite terror." Watch how this simple shift transforms everything. Fear becomes fuel, terror becomes energy, paralysis becomes movement. But what about those deep primal fears that seem to live in your very bones? Fears that feel too ancient and powerful for any practice to touch. The fourth lesson explores what the Buddha called papa, the generational fears we inherit like invisible heirlooms, passed down through family lines like genetic material, but operating in the realm of consciousness. Your terror of abandonment might echo your grandmother's losses during war. Your fear of poverty might carry your family's Depression-era survival memories. These ancient fears live in your nervous system, triggering responses to dangers that no longer exist in your current reality. Modern neuroscience confirms what Buddhist psychology has taught for millennia. Trauma and fear patterns can be transmitted across generations through epigenetic changes, through family systems, through the unconscious absorption of ancestral anxiety. You might be afraid of things you've never experienced, responding to threats your great-grandparents faced in completely different circumstances. A successful businessman shared how he couldn't take entrepreneurial risks, despite having substantial savings, despite clear market opportunities, despite obvious potential for expansion. Always he heard his Depression-era grandfather's voice warning about financial ruin, catastrophe, the importance of never taking chances. These inherited fears felt more real than his current abundance, more powerful than his actual capabilities and resources. "I realized," he said during our sessions, "that I wasn't living my life, I was living my grandfather's fears. I was protecting against a depression that ended before I was born, hoarding for famines that would never come." Buddhist psychology teaches that healing these deep, inherited fears requires compassionate witnessing rather than forceful override, gentle archaeology rather than violent excavation. You cannot simply think your way out of ancestral patterns. You must feel them, honor them, understand their original protective purpose, then consciously choose new responses. The practice involves sitting with the fear, like you would sit with a frightened child who's lost and far from home. Create internal space for dialogue. Where did you learn to be so afraid? What were you trying to protect? What dangers were you helping our family survive? Often these fears were once adaptive responses that now limit your expansion, survival strategies that have outlived their usefulness. Healing happens through honoring the fear's original purpose while choosing new responses from your present circumstances. Thank you, ancestral wisdom, for keeping our lineage alive through difficult times. I honor your vigilance, your protection, your service to our family's survival. And I choose to respond from my present abundance, not past scarcity, from current safety, not historical danger. This healing work with generational patterns reveals something profound about fear's ultimate nature, something that completely transforms how you understand your own psychology. The fifth teaching unveils the Mahabhaya, the great fear that underlies all smaller fears, the terror that drives most of your limitation and self-sabotage, the fear of your own magnificence. You're not just afraid of failure, you're terrified of your own power, your unlimited potential, the responsibility that comes with knowing you can create anything, become anyone, contribute something extraordinary to this world. This sounds counterintuitive until you really examine your patterns of self-limitation. How often do you dim your light to fit in, shrink your dreams to feel safe, betray your own calling to avoid standing out, play small to avoid the vulnerability and responsibility that comes with full self-expression. A talented artist sought my guidance, paralyzed by perfectionism that prevented her from sharing her work with the world. She had canvases stacked in storage, songs recorded but never released, poems written but never submitted. Through deep exploration, we discovered her real fear wasn't criticism, it was recognition, success, the demand to live up to her own brilliance. If people see my true work, she confessed, they'll expect me to keep creating at that level. They'll want more from me. I'll have to be responsible for the gift I've been given. It's easier to stay hidden than to shine and risk disappointing everyone. She was hiding her light under bushels of self-doubt, playing small to avoid the magnitude of her own gifts. This is perhaps the most tragic form of fear, the terror of your own greatness, the anxiety about your unlimited potential. Your soul chose this lifetime to express its unique essence, to contribute something only you can offer, to shine in the particular way that's yours alone. But your ego fears the vulnerability and responsibility this requires. Being fully yourself means risking everything: judgment, rejection, the challenge of living up to your own standards, the loneliness that sometimes comes with authentic expression. Yet every moment you choose limitation over liberation, safety over authenticity, hiding over shining, you suffer the deep pain of betraying your own essence. The greatest tragedy isn't failure, it's never trying, never risking, never allowing the world to see what wants to emerge through you. I've observed this pattern in countless students: the writer who won't publish, the teacher who won't teach, the leader who won't lead, the artist who won't create, the lover who won't love fully. All held back not by lack of ability, but by terror of their own power. The practice requires gentle, gradual expansion into your own greatness. Start by sharing one authentic expression daily, a true opinion instead of agreement, a creative risk instead of playing safe, a moment of genuine being rather than performing. Notice how the world doesn't end when you show up fully. It actually becomes more beautiful, more alive, more inspired by your authentic presence. Ask yourself with loving curiosity, what if my small playing actually deprives the world of something beautiful? What if my fear of my own light creates darkness where there could be illumination? This exploration leads to the final, most transformational lesson about fear's ultimate purpose. The sixth teaching reveals how fear becomes bodhicitta, the awakened heart that feels deeply because it cares completely. Your sensitivity to pain, your awareness of vulnerability, your capacity for terror, these aren't weaknesses but signs of a heart that's alive, awake, courageously open to life's full spectrum of experience. Those who feel no fear often lack empathy, connection, the ability to truly love. Psychopaths don't experience fear, and they also can't form genuine relationships. Your fears actually reveal what matters most to you: losing people you love, failing those who depend on you, wasting the precious gift of this existence. Fear, paradoxically, is love in protective clothing. A mother once shared how her fear for her children's safety initially paralyzed her parenting, making her overprotective and anxious about every possible danger. But through Buddhist practice, she learned to transform that fear into wise action, fierce compassion, skillful protection. Her terror became fuel for creating a more beautiful world for them to inherit. I realized, she explained, that my fear was actually love so deep it took my breath away. Once I understood this, I could honor the love while choosing wise action instead of paralysis. Your fear of rejection reveals how deeply you long to belong. Your fear of failure shows how passionately you want to contribute. Your fear of loss demonstrates how much you cherish what you have. Every fear points to something sacred, something valuable, something worth protecting and fighting for. The final practice is perhaps the most profound: befriending fear as a spiritual ally, a sacred messenger, a fierce protector of what matters most. When fear arises in your body, instead of contracting against it or trying to eliminate it, place your hand gently on your heart and say with genuine appreciation, "This fear shows me what I cherish most deeply." This terror reveals what calls for my courage and care. I honor this feeling as proof of my alive, loving, fully engaged heart. Thank you, fear, for showing me where my treasure lies. When you apply these 6 lessons consistently, releasing attachment to outdated identities, staying present instead of living in fearful projections, acting courageously despite terror, healing ancestral patterns, embracing your magnificent potential, and honoring fear as love in disguise, something miraculous happens. Fear doesn't disappear. It transforms into life force, into energy for expansion, into the very power you need to create the life your soul envisions. Your fears aren't obstacles to overcome, but gateways to walk through. On the other side waits not the absence of fear, but the presence of everything you've ever dreamed of becoming, the full expression of your authentic self, living boldly in alignment with your deepest values and highest calling. The Buddhist path doesn't promise fearlessness, it promises something far more valuable: the courage to live fully despite fear, the wisdom to transform terror into energy, the skill to dance with uncertainty instead of being paralyzed by it. If these teachings stirred something in your fearful heart, if you felt even a flicker of recognition or possibility, subscribe for more transformative wisdom that turns ancient insights into practical liberation. And share in the comments which lesson most challenges you to step into your power, which fear you're ready to befriend and transform today.